Welcome, beautiful souls, to the Beyond the Belief podcast. I'm your host, Lavender Loveway. With each episode, I invite you personally to join me as we explore a belief. It might be a widely held idea, or a forgotten truth, or perhaps even one that feels unknown or deeply contested. This is a sanctuary for exploration, a place to absorb, listen, and learn with an open heart. We're shedding the heaviness of right and wrong and ascending into the lightness of greater connection and expansive knowledge. Today's episode is no exception. This is another precious opportunity to find a little gem or two of wisdom that helps you reweave your own tapestry of truth. Hello, dear ones. I'm so excited that y'all are here with me in this beautiful moment of now. I recently was channeling my guides, seeking their guidance around manifestation and specifically the time between what we request and what we receive. And I, in previous episodes, have spoken about the difference, essentially, that our responsibility, as they have so graciously shared with me, is the what. So defining what is it that we're most seeking to invite into our experience, but that the how, or essentially the logistics in that thing, the what, appearing into our life experience needs to be left to our trusted guides because they have the full vantage point, the full map view, as well as they can work their absolute magic behind the veil, assisting us on a much grander scale. Because the point of hustling and pushing and etc., which I also did an episode on, is not what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be going with the flow and allowing. And I truly believe, side note, this is why we naturally aren't super fans of pushing and hustling and trying to make things happen. Of course, there are always moments where it feels exhilarating, and especially for our egos. But as a regular practice, that is not what we're supposed to be doing, nor do we need to. It's not required. And I'll say, as I always do, unless that is something that you are inviting into your experience and you choose that, then by golly, so be it. So I'm going through my heart intentions with my guides, and I wanted to understand more about that void time, if we will, between identifying the what, our guides executing the how, and then boom, seeing that thing in our 3D reality. And of course, when I had asked this question, set the intention, and then kind of relaxed myself to begin channeling, the first thing they shared with me helped set the tone for what the message was. But I will say this, and if y'all experience this with your own guides, I would love to know the stories or the experiences. Feel free to leave me a comment. I read every comment. They mean the world to me. To understand how your guides operate, because mine are very silly. They love to joke around. They love to create fun metaphors that make me laugh. And if I'm really honest, I really look forward to them now because they become such a joyful part of my process and my communion with them. But essentially, they came up with a metaphor that I didn't even see coming. So this is how they first started the transmission. They shared, that is linear thinking. The ways of the universe is instant. It is just about you continuing to step into it, stepping into the alignment to fully embody it. It's almost like you purchase a costume and you are excited because your costume, you get to be a skeleton for Halloween. You get the costume first. That is the instant choice. That is the instant manifestation. So I love this. And funny enough, I won't lie, this year for Halloween, I was considering being a skeleton. So of course, seeing this in a different light just made me laugh. But we do, and I know this, and I humbly and openly admit this, that I absolutely think linearly. And I don't know if I've shared this with y'all yet, but I am one who I think naturally, I mean, I could say this about all of us, but speaking about myself, naturally, I'm very right-brained. but my life experience and what I've navigated, as well as just the rules of the world and what I chose to adhere to, I became very well versed in being left-brained, to the point where I have in some ways mastered a lot of facets of the left brain, a lot of challenges of the left brain. This is also what I essentially specialize, if you will, from a QHHT standpoint in being a level 2 practitioner. I am someone who helps and empowers and opens doors to those who might be challenged with trying to understand their left brain and try to essentially give their left brain a task or a job to allow for the space to connect with things that are more right-brained. So, with this as my foundational piece, I also laugh because my guides also call me in. They let me know that I'm thinking a little too linearly on this front. But I will say that I think most of us here on this gorgeous planet, in this gorgeous moment of now, are also challenged with. And so this is good for all of us to see. But they basically take this beautiful metaphor of a costume, and what they end up unraveling, which I'd like to walk through these quotes with you, is something that I can now never unsee. First of all, I'll never see a costume the same way again. And I think we all can agree that if and when we are participating or celebrating Halloween or any sort of event where we're becoming a character or putting on a costume, we must first purchase the costume, set the intention of, I want to be a skeleton. So do I have any crafting supplies around my home that I can use to create my skeleton costume? Might be yes, might be no, might be a little bit, might be a lot, depending on the answer. I'm going to go seek out the little pieces of things that can make my bones. Or I'm going to go look for the jumpsuit or the Under Armour, if you will, of my costume so that I can become and step into the skeleton. Essentially, me making the declaration of being the skeleton, in this case for Halloween, that is the instant manifestation. That is the what. And it's instant. It is. And they go on to confirm this. They say, it is done. The moment you purchased it, you made the choice to purchase. You purchased, you have it, it is done. That is it. But now you must put the costume on. And this, my friends, gives such a gorgeous metaphor, how I feel in this process of manifestation. Okay, I decide on what I'm going to be, using this metaphor for Halloween. I'm going to be a skeleton. I go out and get all the parts and pieces. I put the costume together. That is when it's done. The what is defined. I'm going to be a skeleton. Now, there might be some, let's say, time. I might do it a week early. I could do it the day before. And this, I think, also is very realistic in how things manifest into our reality. It might be instant. It might be a couple microseconds. It might be weeks. It might be years. It could be, whatever it is, if we want to tie a time to it. But there is a pause, a sacred pause between this. And so let's say I do it a week early. So I have a week before I have to put the costume on for Halloween. This week is what I was intending to understand from my guides. So of course, they continue to walk through the metaphor. So basically between that work, quote, quote, of putting the costume together, deciding what it is, getting it all fitted and ready to go, and then there being that time lag, let's just call it that, between a week before I need to put on the costume and be ready for my costume party. This is the space, essentially, the process of embodiment. So they go on to say, and putting the costume on means stepping into the costume, stepping into the decisions, into what it looks like, into what it feels like, into the legs and the arms and the headdress, if you will. You must put it on. And as I've shared in past episodes, when we declare something, we declare our what, it is instant. If we make a decision, if we change a belief, if we want to take initiative or lead and do something, whatever that thing is, it is instant. But obviously in us being a skeleton and building this beautiful costume, it's going to take a second to put it on, right? It doesn't mean you're not going to be the skeleton. Meanwhile, your ego mind is going. Because your ego's like, you're not a skeleton until you put the whole thing on, okay? And dare I say, yes, that is true. And of course, my guides spoke to this as well. Here's what they shared. This is when the conscious mind, the ego, then doubts. Despite that, you only have half the costume on. You are not a skeleton yet, but you are, dear one. You purchase the costume. This is how the ego works. It tells you it is not the case. And let's think about this literally. So if I'm going to be this skeleton and I purchase it and I have it, and let's say I am actually putting it on, does anyone in the room, let's say, as I'm even getting ready, it's the day of Halloween, does anyone doubt that I'm a skeleton? Does anyone say, nah, you're not a skeleton? No, because I told them that I'm going to be a skeleton. And I bought the costume and maybe I, held it up and showed it to them, or I talked about how I put it together. Like, nobody doubts that. Nobody's going to say, you're not going to be a skeleton. We'll see. You still have 30 minutes until we get there, and you only have that costume half on, so you're not a skeleton. No, we don't do that. It's funny. It's like, in those cases, somehow our ego doesn't say this, but in the Course of Manifestation, it does say this. And this is where the logic is not logical. The logical mind is not always logical because we're putting on the costume. We've already intended, we've already set the intention, we've already purchased it. We already made the decision. And so as my guides are sharing and reiterating, you've already bought the costume. And despite your ego saying, oh, you only have half of it on, so you're not a skeleton yet. How silly. But this is how our conscious mind, our ego works. It's very literal. It's 100% or nah. And in this case, no, it's already been made. And I think if we for just a moment allow this to sink in, my friends, this is when we've already manifested the thing we're desiring to invite in. We are stepping into the costume. We are doing the things. We are taking the actions. If we want to become that skeleton for the party, well, we got to put our costume on. Maybe we put some makeup on or whatever's in our getup. Well, if we want to manifest the thing or the relationship or what have you, we need to become the thing that then receives that. It's 1-to-1. So, of course, my guides, in true, just awesome, incredible, supportive fashion, then go into, what do I do, guides, in this moment then if my ego is saying this, which I have heard my ego say this. I don't even know how many times. So many times. So what do I do? What do I say? And here's what they shared. You must instead say, thank you. Thank you, dear ego. I understand I have not put on the costume fully yet, but I am stepping into the light of the skeleton. And then you continue to put on the costume. That is what must be done. Continue to step into the light. Oh, so essentially acknowledgement. I understand. I can see in a literal sense, I have not put on the costume fully, but I've already set the intention. I already purchased the costume. I've already started putting it on. I've already started getting ready. This does not mean I'm not going to be the skeleton. And of course, my guides go on to share what this looks like, let's say, in maybe not a Halloween costume way, but what would be an example of this? What does it look like to step into the light of a manifestation? They shared. Make the decisions that you want. If you want to change the job, then you might then go look for another job. You might draft your resignation letter. You might look at your finances and understand planning out your bills. You set up the architecture to support the thing you have already called in. That is how it appears. And holy cow, I think this is when that void, that gap in time, that space, that feeling like you're not sure, you've made the declaration, but you're not experiencing it yet. Where is it? And I'm going to use time, quote, time. That time in between there is for the alignment. So it's not for the clock time because we don't know how long it can take. And for all intents and purposes, it's not supposed to be something that we are concerned with because that is the how. That is how it's getting there, when it's getting there. the logistics of the thing that you're calling in. But instead, it is stepping fully into that vibrational stare, which I have absolutely heard of. I've heard others speak about it. This is how it happens. You step into the light. You step into the vibration. Everything that has to do with embodying it must be done. In this case, if we're going to get another job, we can't just, okay, I'm going to get another job and I'm just going to go sit on the couch, and when the job shows up, I'll jump into it. No, we gotta do something. We might have to make a decision. We might have to look at things. And again, this is not grinding and pushing, and now I have to apply to 5,000 jobs, and I've got to interview 97 times before I even get this. And no. Because then we're meddling in the how again. Instead, it is, what do I need to make this happen? Well, I'm going to have to resign. Or how do I want to resign? Do I want to do it now? Can I do it, tomorrow? Can I do it next week? Do I want to do it next week? When do I want to make this transition? So you're identifying that what of the thing, but those actions that need to happen, well, this is where your guides then step in with each one of those to make those flow. So as you're, let's say, going to apply for jobs, they're allowing jobs that you never even thought were out there pop up on your feed. They're making the connections behind the veil with someone else's guides, basically on the other side, allowing them to suddenly call you. Maybe it's your ex-boss or your ex-coworker. You haven't spoken to them in 3 years, but suddenly they're calling you. Those are the things, but we're taking the actions to step into the light, to basically open the door. Imagine you're kind of standing in a room with all these doors that do need to all be open for all of that light to come in. We can't expect that we say the what and then we just sit down. No, we at least have to go and open all those doors, open all those channels, and allow our guides to facilitate the light and the wattage, the power, the inertia of that energy that comes through those doors. So it's stepping into the costume. So beautiful. And my guides go on to share one of the most powerful things about this, because obviously as I'm consciously channeling, I'm like, holy cow, this is amazing. This is giving me so much clarity and understanding. But of course, they always remind me of the full picture so that I can see the full purview of what this is. This process of manifestation, or basically creation, applies to all creation. It's not just, as we love to label, and thank you, ego, the positive, the negative, the good and the bad, the things, the variance. It applies to all creation, regardless of the label that we want to put on it or the feeling of the energy that we receive. This is how they describe it. And this also goes for quote, quote, negative or quote, quote, positive. As in, if you want something dreary, you want something sad, and you do not believe in yourself, you manifest that too. You step into the sludge of the costume, the sludge of disbelief, of non-self-love. It is all fair and balanced in that anything you call in then is there. If I can just be so honest and transparent, there have been times in my life where I'm like, I can't do that. I know I can't. I'm terrible at that. Every single time I try to do that, I just trip over my own feet. And I keep going and I keep going. And basically I'm stepping into the costume of the sludge. And guess what happens? I end up tripping over my own feet. And then I wonder when it happens, why it happened. And see, this always happens to me. Yes, I called it in. I said it was going to happen. This is because we are powerful creators. We can create basically on either side. It is all balanced. So we must be aware. And then my guides remind me once again that manifestation or things coming into your current life experience is not about time. It is about alignment. And I will put the video link here so that you can watch that if you'd like, as well as I'll put a link in the show notes. But our manifestation is not about time. It is about alignment. They go on to say, so imagine when you make the intention, you buy the costume, it is done. You simply must step into the costume. That is the quote, quote, time. And let us remind you again, dear Lavender, that it is not bound by any specific quote, quote, time. because it is not about time. It is about alignment. And so, my dear friends, the moment of contemplation that I'd love to invite you to step into in this gorgeous moment of now is to think about our manifestations as costumes. Because to me, this metaphor also blossoms even more. This costume is the new thing we're putting on to be. As Dolores Cannon affectionately shared many times across her many books and lectures, we are the producer, the writer, the actor, the script editor. I mean, insert thing here. We are all of those parts in our own play. And this means that we can step into whatever costume we want. If we want to be a skeleton, we can. If we want to be a new job person, we can. If we want to be the new driver and owner of a car, we can. Whatever we want to step into. But by declaring the what of the costume, I want to be a skeleton. And I'm going to go out, I'm going to buy the skeleton costume because I've made the decision, I have made it literal. I've got all the details down because I know what it looks like. I've put it together. Maybe I even tried it on just briefly, just to make sure everything looks good. I know this is what it is that I want to step into. And now it's about stepping into the light of that skeleton. What other things do I need to embody so that everyone believes that I'm a skeleton at that lovely party? And as I continue to step into that costume, putting on each leg, putting on each arm, maybe I've got my headdress, I step into the light of the skeleton. But at any point in doing that action, before the final costume appears, I am the skeleton. And that is what we must remember. We are already the thing we're calling in. We don't realize how powerful we are. But for some reason, this metaphor helped me think about the costume differently and how it connects with the manifestation and that void time that we all feel of basically, where is it? But if it hasn't appeared yet, it means you haven't fully stepped into that light. And this is candidly where I ask my own guides, okay, guides, what do I need to do? What am I not seeing? Is there a blind spot? Maybe just a little something that would help, that would illuminate, that would allow me to step more into that costume. Because remember, it's not about time. It's not about clock time. It's about the timing of alignment when all of those things that are needed for you to dress as a skeleton come into play, come into your reality. And in better understanding that, that is where manifestation can happen, what we feel time-bound as instantly, because we've stepped into the full light of our costume. I am hopeful that this message is helpful. And I am hopeful that this beautiful metaphor they shared with me was as fun as well as enlightening as I felt hearing it and receiving it. I am so grateful. May all of your costumes be beautiful and be everything you ever wished for and more.